Hey y'all, it's Nick and welcome back to Berkeley Life. Today we're going to be talking about mechanical upgrades to our 2003 E450 bus schoolie conversion. A little bit of background for those who haven't seen our videos on buying Berkeley and our adventure flying down to Houston and driving over 1,500 miles to where she sits today. It was an adventure full of mishap and breakdowns, but one of the good things about all those breakdowns and driving it so far and having that experience is we got to learn what things needed to be fixed and what needed to be addressed if we're going to be living out of this bus full time once it's converted. Once we got the bus to the shop where we're going to be building it out, I got a hold of my brother who saved us on that journey.
Big league.
He knows a lot about upgrading vehicles and parts, and he actually sells parts professionally. I felt like he was the right person to talk to about what to replace with OEM parts or stock manufacturer type parts, and what to upgrade and what we should do to make it better than it was stock for our purposes and long-term goals. Over the course of that conversation and talking to him about the project, he offered to come to town and help me work on the bus. And how was I going to turn that down? I need all the help I can get on this big bus project. So along that journey and seeing what was wrong and all those breakdowns and talking to him, a couple of things we decided that really needed to be replaced was the whole front end. We needed to replace the inner and outer tie rods, the upper and lower ball joints, all the shocks all the way around the bus, along with the steering stabilizer. So I ordered the parts and he came to town and we got to start early one Saturday morning because he had to be out of town Sunday morning to get to work. The bus didn't quite fit inside the shop and I couldn't leave it on jack stands overnight with the door open, so we had to get as much done as we could in one sitting as possible. So we jacked up the bus, took off the driver's side tire, and go to replace what we need to replace, and that's when everything took a complete left turn. So my bus has independent front suspension. What that means is there's not a solid axle that has shocks that come down and the axle moves like this. I have two separate arms that come off independently that form the front suspension. On an independent front suspension vehicle, there's usually a hub that has bolts on it that go through the rotor, and then your tire goes on, and then you put the nuts on and the tire's secure. Well, come to find out that on this Super Duty, that's not the case. We quickly found out that the bearings are built inside the rotor, and the rotor is not your typical rotor. It's got the flat part of the rotor which your brakes would attach to, and then there's a piece that sticks out, and then a flat part with bolt ends on it, and that's what our tire would attach to. Along with that discovery, we realized the rotors were shot, totally shot, and the brake calipers and the brake pads were not going to cut it. Not only did we now have to figure out what was involved in taking those rotors off and replacing them, but we also had calipers that needed to be replaced and brake pads that needed to be replaced. So it was just going to replace the whole front end in one day, essentially. So off to the parts store I go, trying to find parts for a 20-year-old vehicle, and anyone who knows how auto parts stores work, nobody ever has the exact part you need. You got to run here, there, and there until you track everything down. It took way longer than I wanted it to, but eventually I get the parts and I get back to the shop a few hours later. So here's a learning lesson for everyone who owns a bus, van, vehicle, or would-be mechanic who's learning. Look at the parts before you buy them, compare them to the old parts before you buy them, and then when you get home, look at them before you disassemble the old parts, because they don't always give you the right parts at the parts store. Ask me how I know that. So, after we assembled the new calipers that were totally not the right size, and we pulled the old ones off and tried to put the new ones on and they didn't fit, and then took the new ones off and reassembled the old ones and put them on, it took way longer than we ever expected, and I now had new rotors, new hubs, and old brake pads rubbing against my new rotors. It's about this time that Jesse, thank the Lord, brought us some pizza, and we finally had dinner at like 10:30 at night. We started at like 7 or 8 in the morning. We're there 10:30 at night. We're not even halfway done with the job, but we had a little bit of hope because we had pizza and Mountain Dew. After the pizza, we just kept cranking, and because of the running around for parts and tools and the wrong parts and the thick layer of grease and dirt that has just been caked to the underside of this 20-year-old Texas bus, we ended up spending 23 hours straight in the shop, under the bus, banging and hammering and torquing and cranking away at this bus. It was a long, back-breaking day of work. Working on it with my brother, though, made it all worth it. Thank you, Leaf. And it was also totally worth it because now I have a brand new front end on my bus. New rotors, new hubs, new tie rods, upper and lower ball joints, shocks, calipers, brake pads, you name it, it's new, and it's gonna last a long time. And along with that 7.3 liter Power Stroke diesel goodness, I expect to be on the road forever. So what do you think? Was it worth the headache, or should I just had somebody else do it? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, please check out this video right here or right here that shows you how to change a caliper in just over 3 minutes. Once you have the right parts, that is. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.